Good morning. My name is Austin. I am the Family Care Support Specialist with the Kerr-Tar Area Agency on Aging. In the studio today, I have a special guest joining me remotely, Camille Kuntz. Welcome, Camille.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So Camille is a certified case manager. She's part of the Aging Life Care Association and my personal mentor. Camille provides coaching in the areas of long-term care planning globally in a nationwide organization. So before we start this presentation, I want to explain how the presentation is going to be set up into work. So the main focus of the presentation is going to be long-term care planning, with Camille being the main presenter. At the bottom half of the presentation, I'm going to be presenting on Kerr-Tarr's short-term services, including care services. Okay, so I'm going to give me one moment. I'm going to get my screen set up here so she can present. Okay, can you see that plainly, clearly?
Absolutely.
Okay, take it away, Camille.
Well, thank you so much, Austin. So today we're going to talk about long-term care planning for seniors. It could also be for, individuals with a disability that are younger. The definition of a senior in the United States is somebody 60 and older. So a lot of people may not believe that they're a senior, but their age, 60 and older, may make them one. So let's get started. In this presentation, we'll discuss five essential questions, documents, home care versus home health, the types of care and general cost of care facilities, options to pay for community facilities or home care, Medicaid, and then Austin will also touch on services through the Area Agency on Aging. So to start, one of the big concerns with long-term care planning is actual documents. Before you are some of the basic essential documents that are needing, especially the power of attorney in this day and age with regulations in the healthcare industry, with HIPAA, just to even be able to see your loved one make any sort of decisions. Power of attorney is just your basic. There are different types of power of attorney. Sometimes you may also hear the word healthcare proxy, which is a form of power of attorney just for medical decisions. You also have power of attorney that encompasses not just medical decisions, but also more the day-to-day decisions as well as financial considerations. And many times, even something in the case of an emergency, if a loved one, they end up in the hospital, even working with a bank. Without that power of attorney, you may not have access to their bank account to even pay bills. So, power of attorney is crucial for seniors that are 60 and older. Many organizations do offer free legal assistance, especially for just the documents like power of attorney, as we're going to discuss wills, or even medical and advance directives. Um, the next thing I'm going to touch on is wills and living trust. Living trust is just a way to manage a person's estate. It may avoid, taxes. The other thing with a will is when a person passes away, if there's no will, then the state has to decide who um, gets their assets. And that process is called probate. It varies. It can be anywhere from 3 months, 6 months. It could be a year. It could be really complicated if there are multiple family members, or if there are multiple assets. And like I said, a living trust is something that it keeps the assets together, and there are many different benefits, but an attorney could go more into that. And like I said, you don't have to go through the probate process, which that's the biggest consideration is when someone passes away, the family, they want access to the assets and money. It could be as simple as, being able to pay for a funeral, medical expenses, final expenses. So any way to avoid probate and or taxes is always a good thing. Medical and advanced directives. If somebody does end up in the hospital, it's important to know ahead of time um, what they would want. We've all heard all the horror stories related to, COVID-19. Um, some people are just very opposed to being even placed on a ventilator, feeding tube, um, and advanced directives actually go through the different types of scenarios, and in case of an emergency, what would the wishes of that person be? And it's really important to discuss those ahead of time, especially if the person is in a situation where they can't actually express what their desire is. And so it can be a hard conversation, um, but at the same time, it's also honoring what the person would want ahead of time. Um, with seniors, sometimes they can be a little resistant to, coming up with these types of paperwork. One innovative idea that I like is I talked with a family, and they were looking for attorneys, and it was mother and daughter. And they're like, yeah, we're actually going to do our documents, the power of attorney, will, medical directives. We're going to do it together, but they weren't doing it just for them. They were doing it for the grandma. And so when they invited grandma, she thought it was a great idea. So they were just making it a family event. I've also seen at Christmas, another client of mine, she had like, she gave one a binder of like important documents. She's like, this is something that I'm in the process of doing. And so it actually started that conversation. So it really helps get people on board, takes some of the, I don't know if it's necessarily scariness, but some people just don't want to think about, those final decisions. But sometimes, um, it's important information to have in place. Okay, so the next thing is with long-term care. Long-term care basically is any sort of assistance that somebody may need on a long-term basis. It's not covered by Medicare or private health insurance typically. Um, the most common form of long-term care is in-home care services. Um, this can be, and they have two different types. They have home health, and then they have home care, and then there's also hospice. Home health are your skilled services, whether it is nursing, wound care, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. And because it is skilled, it actually requires doctor's orders. And with those doctor's orders, usually it's the result of someone may have been in an accident in the hospital. And with the doctor's orders, it may be covered by, um, Medicare or other health insurance. It's usually it's not going to be on a long-term basis. It may be, 4 weeks, it may be 6 weeks, usually while somebody is in the process of recovering. Home care, on the other hand, are your non-medical services. It's the help with the day-to-day task, um, personal care, which could be dressing, toileting, It may be assistance with standing, mobility assistance, preparing meals, errands, driving them to appointments, light housekeeping, just even companionship. If somebody has like a cognitive impairment and maybe they're at a risk of wandering, supervising them, making sure that they're safe, medication reminders. It basically encompasses everything except um, administering medication. Anything that would, and administering medication could even be taking the medication out of a bottle, putting in your hand, and giving it to someone. That's considered giving medication. And that does require typically an LPN or an RN. That does require doctor's orders, but anything outside of administering medication is non-medical and it's private pay. Um, Long-term care services are usually private pay, long-term care insurance, which most people purchase when they're in their 50s, veterans benefits, and then sometimes there are some programs that may be available through the Area Agency on Aging, but those vary from county to county and state to state. Um, Hospice, a lot of people have heard of hospice. Uh, the thing with hospice is a service. Most people think of hospice that the person is dying, they're going to be needing 24-hour care, and it's going to be covered by Medicare. But hospice is a service in and of itself. It's usually a nurse visit. It may be 1 to 2 hours. It may include a home health aide to come and assist with any sort of bathing, but it's not going to be 24/7 care. It's usually designed to keep the individual as comfortable as possible. It may include that medication administration. They do also have some additional services such as they may have volunteers that can sit with the person. They do manage pain. They have many resources on bereavement, counseling, um, uh, grief support groups. Um, but it's really important to know that hospice is not going to be 24/7 care. It's just a specific service in and of itself. And hospice can be either in the home or it can be in a facility, whether it's assisted living or even a skilled nursing facility. So we have different types of facilities. Everything from what is called independent living to skilled nursing. Independent living, they are senior communities. They're usually 55 and older or 62 and older. Um, and they're really nice. I mean, you have your own apartment. It may be one bedroom. It may be two. Um, you generally have one meal a day. There may be even meal plan options if somebody wants, to add meals because they just don't like to cook. But it's a full apartment, full kitchen. They have many activities. Transportation is usually included as well. And in addition to that, the other amenities, in addition to having like a meal or a meal plan option, is light housekeeping is included. Sometimes laundry is included. Um, so it's just the people are very active. They don't have any care needs at all. They just want to be in a community and have some perks. The cost of independent living nationwide, I've seen it about $2,000 a month, just to give you an idea. There is also independent living as part of a community that may also offer assisted living, so that as individuals may need additional care, they can just either move to another building. Sometimes they can bring the services into the person. They also have what are called community care retirement communities. People do move into these communities independent, needing absolutely no assistance, very, very active. And they usually purchase either a home or a condo. Um, and their care is guaranteed for the rest of their life. It usually has a very large buy-in. I've seen it 100,000 or more, plus a monthly a maintenance fee, and that usually starts about 4,000 a month per person. But the person's care is guaranteed for the rest of their life, whether they need assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing, rehab. All of their services are met. Continuing care retirement communities are very, very nice. It's almost like living at a five-star resort. Many of them do have golf course on the premises, but because of that, people do end up paying a little bit more. Um, Assisted living and adult care homes. Many times, adult care homes are licensed as assisted living facilities. Adult care homes are small. They're usually very home-like with, just a few other residents. It may be as few as two. It could be up to six. Um, but whether it is in an adult care home with a home-like setting or an assisted living community, they basically, you have typically your own room, sometimes it's a shared room. Um, and you have your 3 meals a day are included, snacks are included, any level of care, such as personal care, medication reminders, medication management, or if they have to have it administered, transportation, their housekeeping, laundry, all of that is included in the monthly cost. So individuals who may be needing some assistance, whether it is maybe they're having issues with mobility, maybe their home is just not set up. Maybe they can't walk stairs anymore and their house is, 2 or 3 levels. Um, or maybe they just need someone around just to make sure that they're okay. Assisted living or an adult care home can be a really good fit. Many assisted living communities also offer um, memory care, and they may be a secure unit for individuals that have cognitive impairments and may wander. Adult care homes don't always have the accommodations for someone with cognitive impairments like Alzheimer's or dementia, or may wander because the cost to have a secure unit or wander guard or some of the other systems in place, it's just the cost of it just isn't worth it for the adult care home because they're so much smaller. Um, in some states, there may be what they call a Medicaid waiver that may provide financial assistance for assisted living or an adult care home. It varies from state to state. So you can always check with your local area agency on aging to see if the state does happen to offer financial assistance for that. Assisted living and even adult care homes, the cost is right around 4,000 a month. It may be a little bit less if they're sharing a room. Adult care homes, people think that they are going to be lower in cost. In some areas, that may be true, but so many people are wanting that as an option now that the cost is actually coming up to be about on par with an assisted living community. Um, so, after independent living, assisted living, when people start to have really they need care all the time, 24/7. They may even be bedridden. That would be skilled nursing. They may also have medical conditions that are going along with that. They may have, issues with their blood pressure. They may be on oxygen. Um, they may have a medical component, or they just may be bedridden and literally need somebody to assist them with everything. They literally are unable to be alone. It does require doctor's orders because, 24/7 care, that's, a huge deal. Um, and it can be expensive. The national average is about 6,000 a month. That is for a shared room. It's not covered by Medicare, but people can apply for Medicaid for the long-term care. With Medicaid, one thing to remember is there is a look-back period, usually of 5 years. Some people will call, they find out, maybe mom or dad fell, they ended up in the hospital, they broke a hip, and now they found that they're going to be needing long-term care in a skilled nursing facility. They can't go back home, and they're like, oh, I want to talk with somebody about asset protection because they're going to be applying for Medicaid. They can talk with an attorney, but when somebody is actually needing those services, it can be very limited as to what they can do because, again, there's that 5-year look back period. And again, the continuum care retirement communities, they do offer the assisted living, memory care, and many times rehab or skilled nursing on the same campus. So for some people, it's a really good option. But again, there is that. The drawback is there is a large buy-in and a large monthly fee. And Austin, did you have anything to add on that?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So what are the payment options for long-term care? So long-term care is pretty limited in how it's paid for. The most common is private pay, which I went over. The facilities, it's like I said, independent living is about 2,000 a month. Assisted living is about 4,000 a month, and that's going to be per person. Sometimes there will be like a second occupant fee, so it's a little bit reduced. But some facilities they do charge by person. And then the skilled nursing can be 6,000 or more a month. For in-home care, the national average has gone up. I'm seeing it between $20 and $25 an hour. Um, and so in some instances, it can actually be more economical for someone to actually be in a facility than to be at home. Because I know that's a huge concern for a lot of people. They're like, my mom or dad, they don't want to be in a facility. But when you're talking, $20, $25 an hour, and they need, 12 or more hours of care or even 24-hour care, the cost can drastically exceed the cost of assisted living or skilled nursing. Some states do, again, have what they call waivers or a Medicaid waiver for assisted living or those adult care homes. It does vary from state to state. Some states do not offer it at all. And they literally, it's either they have financial assistance for home care or for the skilled nursing. And basically, when the care needs exceed the cost of what it would be in skilled nursing, that's when they're going to say, the person needs to go to skilled nursing because their whole purpose is to provide the person the best level of care needed, but also to be fiscally responsible because they have so many people that they are taking care of. Another really good option is veterans benefits for anyone who may have served in the military 1 day active duty during war times. There's a special pension called aid in attendance. It does have to be applied for. The criteria are, of course, the service record, then their net worth yearly has to be less than 129,000, and then they do have to have some level of care need. The veterans benefits, it is federal, so if somebody moves from one state to another, they don't have to reapply for the benefit. It goes with them. Whereas with Medicaid, because it's state to state, if for example, if somebody has Medicaid in California, but then they want to move to Washington state, when they move to Washington, they would have to reapply in the state of Washington. And those income and asset guidelines can vary from state to state. With the veterans benefit, like I said, it's a federal program. And if there is a spouse, If there's no divorce, even if the person passes away, they do have a spouse benefit. So it's good not just for the person who served, but potentially also for a spouse. For a veteran, it's about 1,800 a month, and it would be every month as long as they're needing that service for in-home care, day programs, assisted living. It can also be used for independent living. Um, for a spouse or surviving spouse, it's about 1,200 a month, and for a couple, it would be about 2,200 a month. Um, they do make adjustments based on the cost of living, so those numbers can actually go up. And usually, you can contact your local county Veterans Service Office for information. The process usually starts with the service record, also known as the discharge paper. In the corner, it usually has the letters DD and then 214. If somebody can't find a person's service record, they can do a record search, and there's absolutely no cost for that. Um, so we have private pay, veterans benefits. They do have long-term care insurance. Some people will purchase that through their employer. Some people purchase it privately. Most people purchase it when they're in their 50s, and it's literally designed to be purchased when you are younger. Most people typically pay in 20 years. The policies vary, but some of them have, they'll pay like a daily rate of 200 to 400 a day. Sometimes they have a monetary max, like the policy is 500,000. Sometimes it's a million. Sometimes there is no limit. Sometimes they have a year max that they'll pay XYZ dollars for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. So it's really important if somebody does um, decide to purchase long-term care insurance that they really look at the details and take into account, the cost of living, inflation. What do they think that their future might look like? Are they planning to stay at home? Are they looking for a facility? Um, and to really think about that. There are some riders. I've seen people, they get very upset and frustrated because they find out that they have to wait 30 days before they can even use the policy. There's like a waiting period. And also, how is it activated? Um, does the insurance company start the assessment process, or is it if somebody needs services, if they go with an in-home care agency, is that all that they need? So it's really important with long-term care insurance just to really understand the specifics of how the policy works. Um, because the biggest thing I've heard is complaints are like, well, I didn't know. And it is a contract, it is insurance, it is ironclad. And so there's not a lot of flexibility if somebody says, I don't know, I didn't know. But I mean, they thought that it was going to cover, all of their services, for the rest of their life. And they find out, that, there's a 2-year max on it, or that there's a monetary max, and then that really many people get very upset. So outside of that, the last way that long-term care options are paid for is through state and county programs, usually some form of Medicaid, whether it's a waiver, which is usually for home care or assisted living, or actual Medicaid for skilled nursing. It does have to be applied for. The programs vary literally from state to state. There are income and asset guidelines, and it is different for a couple versus an individual. A lot of people believe that if, like, I get a lot of couples who, one person needs 24/7 care, and they're like, what are we going to do? Our mom's going to have to sell her house, and she's going to have no place to live. Um, States do not typically kick somebody out of the home. They may have what they call a spin down, where if there's especially a lot of cash, they may have to spend it down to a certain point. But if it is a couple, they are going to make sure that the second person who doesn't need care yet is going to have enough resources for the future. And as far as the home, while they may not kick a person out of the home, they may have what they call estate recovery, which means after a person passes away, then the state may file a claim against the estate. It doesn't mean that there will be anything there, especially if it's just an individual. A lot of times, if there's a spend down, there literally may not be any assets or monies available. And so some states have it, some states don't. But do remember, it is very different for a couple versus an individual. And for those types of things, for people to, if they're really concerned about that, talking with a financial planner or a consultant ahead of time so that, they can make plans to make sure that, in the case of something happening, one or both individuals are financially set. And again, it may also include a conversation about long-term care insurance or other ways to protect assets. And where to apply for Medicaid services. Usually it's through the county. Usually the one place to start is the Department of Social Services. They literally have a representative that can review the different guidelines for you. And Austin has included the Medicaid link for North Carolina, but usually the Department of Services in each county is the place to start for applying for any sort of services. Sometimes you can even go online with the state, and some states actually just have a state website where you can apply online. And if they're that's all the information I have today. So I'm going to turn it over to Austin so he can talk to a little bit about the resources available through the Area
Thank you,
Agency on
Camille.
Aging.
Thank you. That was a great presentation, very, very informative, and I'm sure our viewers are going to really be able to glean a lot of information from that, from your presentation. So let me get to my side here. Program. Slow here. Bear with me, everybody. Okay. So I'm going to just briefly go over our services that we provide here at Kerr-Tarr, and more specifically, our family caregiver support program. So I just kind of want to give you a brief history on the family caregiver support program. The family caregiver support program is a relatively new program. It was birthed or conceived 2000, so it's about 21 years old. The catalyst for the family caregiver program is the Older Americans Act of 1965, and it was recently reauthorized in 2019. So the Older Americans Act, it focused on 5 key areas of senior services. So you have your protecting and preventing elder abuse. A lot of those services are provided through APS services, and also our long-term care ombudsman investigates a lot of those different types of service claims. We also have supportive and nutritional education, which for Kerr-Tarr is through our different senior centers. The nutritional education and meal services are our congregate meals, which I know we've got on hiatus right now due to COVID. So most of them have transitioned to the home delivered meal services. And you also have part-time community employment services, so helping seniors if they choose to go back out in the workforce or lack skills for to go back out into that workforce, helping with training. A lot of that's done through our senior center services or through vocational rehab services. You also have home and community-based services, which are our transportation services and our home health aides, which are through a block grant. And lastly, we have our information and referral and respite family caregiver services. So that's kind of my genre as a family caregiver support. And as a representative, I am charged with helping our region for individuals that may need assistance with support for their loved one. You're the primary caregiver, for example, and your wife has dementia, and I can help refer you to different services, including mental health services, including referring you to the senior centers, or maybe just help setting you up on one of our vouchers, which I'm getting ready to explain. That's just our slides reviewing the eligibility requirements. So the eligibility requirements under the for family caregiver support services under the grant, you must require assistance with ADLs, which are daily living skills. Those are the same thing that Camille touched on, that assisted living facilities, adult care homes, and home care agencies provide. Those are daily living activities such as meal preparation, assistance with medications, money management, helping with ambulation, which just means to get up, move around, or communication. So the Family Caregiver Support Program, again, was founded in the year 2000. It's under Title 3E under the Older Americans Act. The main goal of the program is to keep seniors in their home because we find that keeping individuals in the home is most of the time, most seniors want to stay in the home, but also is a better cost-effective way to provide the services. So currently, states across the nation are fighting for more and more funding for those home-based services, home and community-based services through the block grants. So our vouchers, we actually currently have two vouchers. Traditionally, we have the $750 voucher. That's for respite care. The $1,000 voucher that you see there on the slide is from our CARES funding. And the $750 voucher is good for 90 days once we authorize it. And the $1,000 voucher is good for 120 days. The main two vouchers, the difference between the two vouchers truly is just the funding. Most of them have the same eligibility requirements. You've got to be 60 years of age or older, have some type of a dementia, or require assistance with your ADLs. We also offer, under the Family Caregiver Support Group, we also offer communication, help, support, and connection with your peers as support groups. We also can connect you to information and referral for a variety of different services that you might require. And then we also have what's called discretionary services. Those are helps with incontinence supplies, dementia smart cams, and there's personal emergency response systems or life alerts. One of the other caveats of our Kerr-Tarr is our CARES funding. So our CARES funding can help pay for a variety of different types of services, such as wheelchair ramps. We also have some funding for dementia cams under that as well. We also do emergency grocery boxes because we find that a lot of our food banks in the area are just overran. And so that's a service that we've set up. We also can help send out personal protective equipment. We also offer produce boxes, which are good for Vance and Franklin. We're just now setting this up, but Franklin County. So Vance and Franklin County, you can get produce box delivered bi-monthly. So in case you are not in our region, which is Region K, we're in Person, Granville, Vance, Warren, or Franklin. So if you're not in our 5-county region and you live outside of 5-county region, you can locate your local area agency on aging by going under the Health and Human Services website under Aging Services. And they've created a list of all the area agencies in North Carolina. I've also included the same list on our slide here. So you can either go under, and once I post this slide and this information, you can go onto our slide and locate your AAA. All right. I think this concludes our presentation on long-term care planning and Kerr-Tarr Area Agency on Aging Services. Thank you so much, Camille, for taking the time with me today.
Thank you. It's always been a pleasure.
Absolutely. You have a great day.
You too. Thank you.